Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the QT2 Run course preview and pre-race tips for the 2024 Boston Marathon. We're very happy to welcome back Coach Jon Falk. Jon has done this presentation a few times, and so this is our update for 2024. There is no one that I know anyway that knows the Boston course better than Jon does. He grew up on the course. He has run the Newton Hills. He runs on the course just about once a week. First Boston for him was now 20 years ago in 2004, and this will be his 13th year running it. So welcome, Jon. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thank you, Reem. Now you're making me feel old. I guess it has been 20 years. Doesn't feel like it, but I want to welcome everyone to this preview. As Reem said, I have run the course literally backward and forward. Past few years, I've done that on race day, where I've done from the finish to the start and then run the race, because that's just fun for me. But I know every nook and cranny of it. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Or if you want to email me questions afterwards, feel free as well. I'm happy to follow up with anything that any questions you might have about how to approach it, or anything that I might have covered in the presentation that you wanted me to elaborate on. I'm happy to follow up with you about that. Next slide, please. All right, so starting things out, I want to kind of talk about the kind of five cornerstones about the QT2 run and QT2 systems in general, just to give a sense of kind of where we're coming from and how we approach things when we were reviewing a course, but also when we're setting up training plans for people. To get a sense of kind of who we are and how we operate. So kind of going through this, we're going to kind of start with that. Then we're going to go through the final weeks leading up to the race, and right before the race day, kind of check logistics about how to approach the last few days before the race, kind of the day before, and the evening before, and on race morning. Then kind of going through the course from beginning to end, kind of breaking down each part of it, and kind of from my perspective of how to approach it and how the course will play out. And then kind of on race day, how to approach pacing and fueling. And I have my own kind of opinions about the best way to approach the Boston course. Everyone has their own opinion. Boston is definitely a challenging course that if you haven't run it before, or if it's new to you, it can be a hard course to run right the first time. Oftentimes I've found that it takes people a few efforts to really kind of get the course down. And even then, the things that are out of your control can impact how you do on race day and how you perform. And so, as always, you control what you can control, and you kind of adjust it as you need to. Next slide, please. So talk about the five cornerstones of QT2 training. Kind of the training component, the restoration and day-to-day nutrition, kind of recovery from it, and how you approach your fueling. Pacing, how you kind of modulate your pacing, the kind of different methodologies that we suggest that you try or that you adopt, and kind of mental fitness. So how you training kind of develops your mental toughness, both in confidence, but also your ability to adapt to things when things don't work out quite to plan. So these are kind of the main things that we try and emphasize throughout when we're working with clients and when we're developing a training plan for them. These are the things that we look at and we try and relate to them throughout the whole build up to race day. Next slide, please. So in the final weeks leading up to the race, you have obviously your taper. You got some final key race specific sessions. Basically you're going to be doing things that are kind of helping both prepare your body physically and mentally for the challenges you're going to face on the course. And these are the things that are pretty well known. The very steep downhill at the beginning of the race, the Newton Hills, and then the kind of the downhill, net downhill when you get past the Newton Hills to the finish. And kind of the challenges with the course lie in kind of where these things occur. And so you want to kind of, ideally, when you're setting up your training or someone's setting up training for you, you're taking these things into account to both prepare yourself physically and mentally for these challenges you're going to experience on the course. You want to simulate the race conditions, intensity in your training, like anything, as well as the nutrition you're going to be using, hydration you're going to be using, preparing yourself for the the downhill, like I mentioned, the challenges that you face. The hills, not so much that they are challenging and that they're insurmountable, but that they are kind of where they come in the course and kind of where you're at physically at that point of the race. Weather volatility. I'm sure many of you are already looking out, trying to look at like kind of projections. Certainly once you get to 2 weeks, you get like 2 week forecast. I'm looking at it too. You really don't know what you're going to get until you get closer. And that's something I've run in everything from low 90s to low 40s and everything in between. Rain, sunny. So you have to kind of prepare yourself for any eventuality. And there are things you can do, and I will talk about that, like if you get a particularly hot day, how to approach that and try and do a little bit of acclimation last minute to kind of prepare yourself for that. Definitely do a dress rehearsal, as far as like trying out all your gear you're going to be using, making sure there aren't any hot spots or something isn't rubbing you the wrong way. You want to make sure that there are no surprises on race day among the things you can control. You don't want to find out that a singlet that you're wearing at mile 20 is starting to rub you raw because you never really wore it on a long run. So you want to make sure everything is race tested and that you are in the sense that you have tried it out on race conditions and that you will leaving nothing to chance on race day. Next slide, please. So you want to train to your race targets, and there are different ways as far as pacing, how you approach it. I think the easiest things, I'm a big fan of kind of keeping it simple. So whether it's a metric like heart rate or rate of perceived exertion, I think those are the easiest things to understand and easiest to be able to process in the moment during a race. Other things that you can use are a good metric to also go by, as far as pacing. Pacing is a little bit more challenging in a Boston course because what your pace will be at any given moment or what your pace should be at any given moment is going to swing significantly depending on where you are in the course. So there are, and I will kind of talk about this a little bit later, there are pacing websites that you can use that will kind of adjust it. If you put in your goal pace and your goal time, and it will adjust it for each at a given mile split, kind of where you should be at along the course. And when you use that, you'll see kind of that will vary significantly depending on where you are. A newer metric that's kind of comes from cycling that is kind of still kind of, it's still being it's being utilized by runners, but it's a little bit new, is power. And I think the issue with power is that is the accuracy when it comes to running. I think it's like if you are consistently using it in your training and you have a sense of kind of what those numbers mean to you, I think it can be useful because of the margin of error that I've seen as far as runners. Like I think like unless you've used it consistently, you don't want to start using it on race day. Things to also think about in the weeks leading up to it is there's really not a whole lot to be gained by trying to sneak in an extra speed workout or adding extra miles to your training at this point. The expression is we're all familiar with the hares in the barn, and that you don't want to, there's really nothing to be gained. There's certainly something that can be lost either due to injury or there's things that there are more risks than there are gains for it at this point. You want to focus on frequency and feel. As I said, you don't want to overtrain or panic train to I just need another long run or add a little bit more miles. Really, the preparation for any marathon, but certainly for Boston, is it's the totality of your training that's going to prepare you for race day. And it's not any one given workout that's going to certainly at this point, that's going to significantly improve what you're able to put out on race morning. Err on the side of recovery. It's certainly if you're dealing with any nagging injuries or anything like that, it's the time to rest up, to allow yourself to get to the starting line feeling strong, feeling rested. Focus on sleep. Focus on kind of foam rolling, or whatever you use to kind of help kind of work out the kinks, this is the time to really focus on those things, to put yourself at the starting line and in the best position possible to succeed. Make sure to include days off. Like even if your training leading up to it has been pretty aggressive and you haven't had rest days, you want to make sure now is the time to include them. You don't want to be running every day. You want to really allow your body to recover, to fully kind of benefit from all the hard work you put in up to this point. And that on race day, you can really kind of tap into that and really excel, when you want to, which is during the race itself, not in a particular training or workout. Next slide, please. So also, again, focusing on things like fluid intake. You want to make sure you're taking sufficient fluids in the weeks leading up to it. And certainly as you get closer, once you get to the week before and days before, really focus on hydration. You want to get yourself in your body in a good rhythm about taking in those fluids and kind of utilizing those fluids. And that's going to be that, those kind of things start now. Make sure that you're, eating well, really focus on cleaning up your diet. You want to make sure that, again, you're kind of optimizing your body on race day and all these different kind of facets of preparation for marathon running, that you really focus on that now. And now's the time where it really will impact how you do on race day. Especially when you have a longer effort or harder effort, make sure that you're taking in nutrition to kind of offset kind of how those particular workouts will have impacted you. Hopefully you're doing that throughout your training, but certainly now as we get closer to race day, that's the time to really focus. Again, you want to make sleep a priority. I know it's hard. I have a family. I have multiple jobs that I do. I'm training myself to run Boston. It's hard to make sure you get enough rest. It is probably the single most important thing you can focus on leading up to race day is getting good sleep. And certainly in the days leading up to it, that's going to be really what will allow you to kind of excel on race day. You can take, certainly it's a thing if have used before in your kind of how you recover, you're using kind of natural anti-inflammatory measures like taking omega-3s, however you might take that in, it's useful to help kind of work out the kinks, to help kind of offset kind of any lingering inflammation, any lingering discomfort you might have. I know it may be hard to, but try and kind of reduce the caffeine intake some. While certainly can be a performance benefit to caffeine, excessive caffeine intake, certainly leading up to race day is going to be counterproductive. So try and kind of reduce it. If you can keep yourself to 1 cup or maybe 2 cups a day, as opposed to 3 or 4, like I normally might have, that's kind of the best way to go. You want to really kind of cleanse your system and make sure that, that everything's optimized for race day. Next slide, please. Leading up on race week, eat a relatively low diet. You don't want to be trying anything new. If this is your first rodeo, so to speak, you probably have a good sense of what works for you leading up to it. But don't try anything new. Don't excessively. I think our appetite can be a lagging indicator of kind of like what we really need. I know I'm always hungrier at this point when I start to taper than like my kind of expenditures as far as training at that point might indicate. So just kind of be aware of that. Don't deny yourself something, but also keep in mind that you're not necessarily burning as many calories in a day as you were at the height of your training. If it looks like it's going to be a hot Boston, definitely think about adding a little bit of extra salt to your meals. Generally speaking, though, in my opinion, you don't really need to chase salt, because most of the food that we eat is, especially if you're eating any kind of prepared foods, has a too high a salt intake to begin with. But if you're eating a very clean diet, that might be a consideration. Again, focusing on hydration, drink plenty of fluids leading up to it. You don't want to overdo it, but just constantly sipping. You want to really have everything topped off, the tanks topped off, so to speak, for race morning, that you're ready to go. Again, continue to hit down on the caffeine prior to race day. Continue making sleep a priority. Can't emphasize that enough. And if possible, stay off your feet. I know many of you are coming to Boston for the first time, and it's a great city. I definitely encourage you to explore, especially if you're a history buff. but it's it's the cradle, the birthplace of the American Revolution. It's super cool. But ideally, if you're able to stay around a few days after the race, that's the best. You don't want to overdo it on your feet. While you definitely want to keep moving some, you definitely don't want to overdo it. There's nothing worse than like getting to the starting line and feeling like you got tired legs. So we want to try and do like the heavy sightseeing after the race if possible. Next slide, please. So when it comes to fueling, again, you want to have, just like you want to have a training plan, hopefully in your training, and that's something we emphasize in QT2, that you're also training your gut, that you're practicing a fueling plan, both leading up to a workout, or in this case, a race, but also afterwards, so that you're using what you're going to be using on race day, so that your body is expecting it. So I will kind of go this more depth, but like if you are planning on using what they have on course with the Martin gels, make sure that you've used that on your long runs throughout your training so that you are ready for it. If you're using something else, then I would consider bringing your own and running with it, or having someone hand to you along the course. Purpose, as I mentioned, is train your gut for race day. Using recovery drink is an option to help kind of replenish yourself after your workout. You should be doing this throughout your training, but certainly emphasizing this leading up to race day. And then making sure that if you're going to use what they have on the course, you're using the Martin gels, and then you're using the Endurance Gatorade, which is not the Gatorade you're going to find in the store. It's probably something I know I have to order on through Amazon myself to have. Use the lemon lime drink. So if you're going to use it, and you probably should, because you don't want to necessarily have to carry it with you, then make sure that you train with that, or at least you're exposed to that leading up to race day. Race day, I mean, it's 100% true that fueling is the most important and most likely limiter of performance. And again, when it comes down to performance on race day, you control what you control. And this is something you have complete control over leading up to race day and on race day. So, make sure you get that right. Make sure that you are thorough about how you're approaching it. Next slide, please. So kind of in the weeks leading up to it, it's hard. We all live busy lives. We have stresses at work. We have family stresses. Obviously you got to deal with those. But to the extent you're able to reduce those external pressures, stress is one of the things that is very detrimental to the body in general, as I'm sure you're all aware of. But also in terms of like it will lead to elevated heart rate on race day. And when you kind of have a kind of set capacity of kind of heart rate reserve that you can tap into as you work harder, you don't want that kind of raises kind of it kind of reduces, I should say, what you're able to tap into. Trust your preparation. You put in the work. You've been, I'm sure in many cases, training for months and months, maybe as much as 6 months, or maybe this has been like a even longer build up to it to get ready for really crushing it on race day. Trust that preparation, believe in it. Begin to visualize how you will do. If you have never been on the course, haven't run it before, there are some great videos that kind of give an accelerated kind of tour of the course, if you will. And that's something helpful, just kind of visualize, to kind of look for kind of markers on the course. So on race day, you kind of know where you are, get a sense of the flow of the course. You're not going to remember it all, obviously, but it just gives you a sense of kind of what to expect. And so you can kind of check that box when you see a particular, like when you see the sit go sign, you kind of know where you are, and you kind of know how much you have left, and what you can sense kind of what you need to give to get there. Definitely list your goals. Goals are something you have 100% control over. I like to break it into 3 goals. I have my super secret A goal that I don't tell anyone. I have my B goal, which is something I might share publicly, and I have the C goal, which is what I can live with. So, that may be just, hey, I just want to finish the race. That's a completely worthy goal. But you want to basically have a sliding scale, so that you always feel like you leave this race in particular, but any race, feeling good about how you did, because you put a lot of time and effort to prepare and execute on race day. And you want to always feel like you want to look for those positives, and there are always positives to be gleaned from any effort, including how you might do, even if it is, regardless of whether it's your best or not your best effort. and internalize kind of those feels, like knowing when you've done like those kind of race pace efforts at the end of a long run, just kind of remember how that feels and tapping into it and knowing that you can do it. That's what it comes down to. As much as anything, it's a physical training. You're also training you're training your brain, your to be able to wrap your head around doing things that like may that seem hard, but if you kind of actualize them in your training, you can make it happen on race day. Next slide, please. So when you get there, things have changed since I first did it. I remember when everything was mailed out to you and printed. It is no longer the case, but make sure you read the athlete guide, especially if it's the first time. It just will help you calm your nerves, as well as kind of sense of kind of what to expect race weekend, what the schedule is. And so like there may be things that you want to see. They have like great speakers they have. So definitely kind of review where things are so you can kind of plan your schedule around kind of like how you want to, just the Boston experience. It's not just the race, it's the whole weekend. The whole city is really, it's an amazing feeling, even for me, having grown up here and done it several times. It's like the whole, it's just there's a palpable energy. So like see what's going on and definitely tap into it. Make your list as far as like what you need to bring with you. Whether just like plan out for any eventuality based on how the conditions are going to be, based on like what you're gonna want to have with you. Make sure you have things like the power cord to your for your watch. Don't assume that you're going to be able to find it on at the expo. If you forget it, they sell out. Because so these are the things you want to prepare for. Those things. If when you are certainly on race the evening before the race, you want to charge or replace batteries. Obviously, packing, confirm your reservations. Again, reduce these stresses. This is all about reducing stresses so that you're entering focused and calm. And kind of like I said, plan kind of how you want your pre-race schedule to be. Again, try and like stay off your feet as much as you can. You don't want to, you want to be able to really push yourself on race day, and so you want to minimize kind of what you're doing leading up to it. Next slide. So the expo is at Heinz Convention Center on Boylston Street. It's accessible by a T-stop. That's what MBTA is, the local metro here. There's a stop there, so I definitely recommend that if you are, don't try and drive there. Parking can be really challenging in the city in general, so take advantage of public transportation. The hours are pretty flexible, so certainly whenever you're coming in, you should be able to get there and be able to pick up your packet. And your bib and shirt. You cannot have other people do it for you. You have to do it yourself. So they're pretty strict about that. So make sure you're able to get there. And I think it's best to get there early. For me, I like to get there early, get out of the way. If there's maybe a speaker I want to see on a different day, I may just pop in to see it. But I like to get that out of the way so I don't have to think about it. And it's also from just a practical standpoint, I have gone on a Sunday, and then if you have a smaller size shirt that you would normally get, they may not have it because people are able to come in when they pick up their shirts and exchange it if they feel it doesn't fit right. So they may run out of certain sizes, and that's happened to me. So if you want to be sure that you get something that fits the way you want to, it's better to err on the side of a little bit earlier. Like if you're coming late on a Sunday, you might not have what you're looking for. The expo is a great opportunity to try things, both at the expo itself and outside the expo. There's a lot of the big brands would be in the area. Used to be everyone was at the expo. They've limited in recent years to just sponsors. So, but really all the brands will have pop-up shops like in the areas around the Heinz Convention Center. It's really fun. It's great energy. Like definitely take some time to walk around that area. And you can, it's just fun. Everyone's in a good mood. Everyone's there for the race or supporting runners. And you really pick up on that energy. So I definitely encourage you to do it. to a point, but definitely walk around and kind of soak everything in. Definitely don't try anything new. It's not the time to be picking up any last minute stuff that you haven't tried. I think that's pretty obvious, but just want to reiterate that. It's the time to try something new is not in the days leading up to the race. The time to have done it was in your training. Next slide. So kind of the focus for QT2 as far as nutrition is kind of the really big, what you want to really focus on, according to our nutritionists that work with our athletes, is a large breakfast the day before the race. You see the breakdown of 90 to 125 grams of carbs and 20 grams of protein. The reason for that is to really allow your body to digest and process everything. You know, if you're taking something like if you going out for a dinner in the early evening the night before, your body really won't have fully digested it by the next by race time. It does take your body sometimes up to 24 hours to really process something. So doing it early enough and if you're doing it at breakfast, you're having like a good nutritious breakfast, that really will allow you to benefit the most. Certainly you don't want to forgo eating afterwards, but like that's the meal that I encourage our athletes to emphasize, the day before the race. Focus on hydrating, especially if it's going to be a warm day. But in general, just be drinking, regularly throughout the day. You want to have your tank topped off, so to speak, when you get there to the starting line. That you don't want to be in a deficit, or even, you want to be as full as you can up to a point. You don't want to overdo it, but you want to be kind of focus on emphasizing hydration and focusing that leading up to it. Avoid caffeine for a number of reasons. Certainly the night before, in the day before. If you have a little bit in the morning, that's fine. I usually have a cup of coffee myself before a race just to kind of get me moving. And again, if you're able to reduce kind of the amount of walking around you're doing, and save your tourist activities to after race, that's best. Hopefully you were able to kind of schedule things that way. Ideally, you want to literally get your legs up and just relax. It just allows you to focus, allows your body to really be prepared for the hard effort on race morning. Next slide, please. Consider, I like to do it the day before, but some people it could be 2 days before, doing a short shakeout run, especially if you've been traveling, if you flew in, you spend hours sitting, just to get things moving a little bit, to kind of get your body, maybe a couple quick, a little bit of shakeout run, maybe a couple accelerations to race pace, so you can kind of feel that, kind of reacclimate yourself with that. If you're planning a rest day before, at least get in some movement. It's all a question, some movement is better than no movement, but it's a fine line between some and too much. So, err on the side of, of not, doing less movement than too much, but you don't want to just be completely sedentary. You really want to keep your body moving and your blood flowing. Next slide. Okay, getting everything organized the day before. I can't tell you, for me, my OCD kicks in when I try to get my number pinned. So if I'm doing it in a race morning, it's like the most stressful thing that I'm doing that morning is getting my number pinned on my bib. I'm sure most of you are not like that, but I think that having everything ready the night before and early the day before, like everything, number pinned on, everything laid out, you don't want to be like kind of trying to organize things, in the evening or later in the evening, because it's just going to stress you out and kind of get you all riled up. So I like to have everything ready early in the day before the race, just so you don't have to, one less thing to worry about, reduce stresses. Confirm your race morning logistics. How are you going to get to the start? Don't assume that you're going to be able to get an Uber, because everyone's going to be trying to get an Uber. If you're not coming from close, if you're not staying in a hotel closer to the start, walkable, you just got to take this thing into account. Make sure you book it, or depending on when you're starting, when your wave starts you may not. The T isn't open 24 hours like in New York. You have to make sure you think about these things before, and not trying to say, oh, okay, how do I get there the night before? You just assume that you can take them to Metro. You may not be, depending on when you're going. So just think about these things. Get early to bed. If you're staying at a hotel, I always get a wake up call. At least I know that I can be confident that that's going to happen. And then I set multiple alarms because I don't know about you guys, but if I'm like I not so much before races, but in the morning I can hit the snooze button multiple times before I'm like, oh wait, what do I have to do? Like set multiple alarms, put them outside of arm's reach, and then like make sure everything is charged. So if you're going to be wearing, obviously your watch is charged. Don't assume that it's charged. I've had made that mistake, and on a race when I was completely positive that I charged it before the race, and it was at zero. So don't make that mistake. Make sure if you have headphones, make sure they're charged. You know, and though I would even encourage you not to use headphones. I mean, I'm not a big fan of headphones during races. So I feel like it takes away both from your focus, but also from your enjoyment of just the experience of running the Boston Marathon. But I know many of you train with it and like to have that, use that during your race. So obviously do what works for you. Make sure that you're prepared, that make sure, like I said, your headphones are charged, that your phone is charged if you're going to be running with it. Don't kind of wake up the next morning and in a panic realize that you didn't have these things ready. Next slide, please. So again, like I said, I like to set everything out early the day before, have everything ready to go. Make sure you have everything. If only because like if you, hey, oh my gosh, I forgot my pair of toe socks, whatever you might be wearing. Or like, oh, I thought I brought Body Glide, but I don't have it. Like you can make a last minute run to Expo or something like that. You'll be able to find. You want to make sure that if there's anything missing, you have still time to do something about it. Set up, pre-race clothing. Generally speaking, with Boston, they used to be able to take your drop bag to the start. Now, if you're not aware of this, you check it before you get on the buses. There's an area you drop it off, and that's where you pick it up after the race. It's close by to where you get aboard the buses. So what you bring to the start, I think it's like a quart-sized bag that can fit in. If it's raining, they'll let you, bring like everything doesn't have to fit into it, but most stuff you bring with you has to. If it's raining, you can wear a plastic bag, but you won't be able to bring anything back from the start. So anything you bring with you, it's either you're going to be wearing during the race or carrying with you, or it should be throwaway. So if you haven't done this before, like I usually go to Goodwill, I'll pick up, a sweatshirt or sweatpants or whatever I might want to have to keep warm if it's a little bit on the cool side. What they do is they collect that. There are bins as you head to the starting line. You can just put it in there, and it's kind of repurposed, so it doesn't go to waste, but it keeps you comfortable if it's necessary. You have a particularly cool or wet race. You want to be able to keep yourself dry and warm for as long as possible. Again, focus on rest. Pre-race jitters are not conducive to getting good sleep, but don't stress out about it. If you don't get good sleep, I always tell people it's really the night, 2 nights before that you really want to focus on getting good sleep, because sometimes, and it's happened to all of us, not even just for running, our nerves keep us up and we just can't, our mind is whirling, we can't fall asleep. So I always tell people, if you have good sleeping up to it, you have good sleep 2 nights out, don't stress out about it if you don't have good sleep the night before. I mean, ideally you will, but if it doesn't happen, your mind is kind of whirling, don't let it stress you out. If you prepare your body in the days leading up to it, you'll be good on race day. Next slide. So for breakfast, very simple. You don't want to be putting a lot into your stomach at that point. Simple carbohydrates, like I might have a bagel, or I might have a banana with peanut butter, so a little bit of carbs and a little bit of protein. You want to avoid fat, fiber, or like anything with like loaded with extra vitamins and minerals. Kind of our dietitians recommend applesauce, bananas, a little bit of protein, sports drink, and ideally you're consuming it like 3 hours or more before the start, just so it's like being processed and really you can be able to utilize it. Because if anything you take in outside of gels, within a couple hours of the race, your body will not process in time for you to really benefit from it, and you may regret it if your stomach gets a little bit upset as a result. Keep on sipping on sports drinks. Having a gel right before you start, kind of top off the tank, like 15 to 20 minutes before start, is a good idea. the whole idea is like staying ahead of your body's needs, both when it comes to fueling and hydration. That if you do that, you'll be really running in an optimal fashion on race day. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the bag check is near the boarding area. I think we should be able to see it on the next map, or at least explain where it is. There are no bathrooms on the buses to start. They use school buses to ferry people to Hopkinton. And so there are plenty of porta potties in the area. So just get to the kind of the boarding area early enough. You can kind of offload anything you need to prior to getting on the bus, because it can take like a half an hour to 40 minutes to get to the start. There's state police are kind of smooth the way for the buses getting there, and there's like a dedicated lane on the Mass Pike to get the buses there. But it is a little bit of a ways, and so you want to make sure you're not like in the middle of that and like desperately needing to go to the bathroom and you get off the bus. And of course, all the porta potties nearest to you are going to have lines longer than you would care to see. So take care of that. I always think it's just a good idea to go there, and then when you obviously if as needed once you get there. This is kind of the suggested schedule, so I definitely would stick to this as far as boarding times. If you kind of miss this, you're not guaranteed to get there and start for your wave. It's better to err on the side of early. You won't be there too long regardless, but better to err on the side of being a little bit early, getting on there even prior to those kind of suggested cutoff times, to make sure you get to the start, because the last thing you want to do is like running around, like figuring out where you need to go. If you need to use the porta potty, you basically want to keep everything calm and cool and focused. And the best way to do that is just give yourself plenty of time for the whole process. It gives you a chance to talk to some people everyone's excited, gives you a chance to talk with some new people. So better get there a little bit early than a little bit late. Next slide. So here you can see kind of the area. You're on kind of in between the public gardens and the Boston Common. That's where the bus loading area is. It doesn't matter which bus you get on; they're all going to the same place. Don't necessarily go for the first bus you see. It's just like porta potties. Everyone will go to the first one they see. Like Lemmings, if you move down a little bit, you'll get on a bus a little bit faster. There are porta potties kind of on both sides in the public gardens and the Boston Common, so that you can, if you need to, you'll be able to take advantage of that. And then you can see where the gear check is kind of towards the bottom left of the corner, very close, like it's just a quarter mile start. Walk from there to where where you board the buses. Obviously, you have someone meeting you at the finish line. You don't have to check your gear, but if you're planning on checking your gear, you want to make sure you do that. Anything you take, just to reiterate, to the start is staying at the start. Or coming with you as you run. So don't make the mistake of leaving your fancy jacket, bring it with you, because you'll be wearing around your waist during the race. So definitely check your gear if you don't have anyone who's going to be meeting you at the finish area. And even if you do, to be honest, because of the hubbub, it's just very chaotic at the finish. Like, it's nice to be able to put stuff on right away, change out of that kind of your sweaty, gross clothes, and like put on something, at least put on a layer if it's a little bit chilly. You get supposed to try and wait until you find your people meeting you there, and trying to putting on at that point, because they're going to be pretty cold, pretty chilled if it's a cold day, and it can be. Next slide. So this is what will greet you as you kind of pull in to the parking lot at the Hopkins High School, where the Athletes Village is based. It's like when you see this, it's go time. It's be excited. It's all that hard work is about to be realized. Next slide. So as I mentioned, they kind of drop you off in the Hopkins High School or middle school, same complex. There's a large staging area with tents. If it's a sunny day, find shade. If it's a rainy day, find cover. If it's a rainy day, and everyone and their uncle will be in the tents that they set up for athletes, the huge tents, I would definitely recommend either having shoes like wearing throwaway shoes, or to put like plastic bags around your shoes, because what ends up happening on a rainy day is there's like a moat around the tents, and your feet will be drenched, and your shoes be filled with mud if you don't do that. So just things to think about, depending on the weather. And definitely like find shade if possible. Along the course, it's going to be hard, but on a sunny day, even in a sunny day in April in Boston, you're going to be full sun if it's clear. There's no leaves on the trees at this point. If it's a hot day, you're going to be looking for shade. There won't be any to be found. So make sure you stay out of the sun as much as you can leading up to it. Make sure you're applying sunscreen if it's going to be a sunny day. You're going to regret it if you don't. Participants will leave, and you'll see this on the next slide, the times based on their assigned wave, bib number, and corral assignment. Listen for those announcements, because the times that they have, but you'll see on the next slide, but also you'll see on the website, is like estimated times, and it can fluctuate. So don't assume that that's the time that you have to be there, that you should be leaving. You have to kind of keep your ear on the announcements and just make sure you don't miss it. The last thing you do is want to be rushing towards the start. It's a little bit of a hike, 0.7 miles. You don't want that to be an impromptu warm up. There'll be Gatorade, water, bagels, bananas. Sometimes they have power bars, and coffee at the starting area. So if you need just a little something to gnaw on, it's available to you. But again, this is not the time to be trying to fuel yourself for race morning. You hopefully have done the right things leading up to it. As I mentioned, it's 0.7 of a mile to the staging area, so it's a little bit of a hike. I sometimes use that to find a little space and just like to get in some quick strides along the way, just to warm myself up, because there really isn't room once you get to starting corrals. They tend to be pretty packed, and there's really no room around the starting area to warm up. So that's an opportunity, if you hadn't done that prior, to do it on the way there a little bit, just get things moving. There will be right before you turn into the corrals, there's a city of porta potties. So if you need to go, you'll be able to find them right before you get to start. There are even a few along the corrals as well, but there's plenty of them just very close to the start. So you may need to kind of go in a little bit to find one, but you shouldn't have a long wait at that point if you need to offload something. Next slide. So these are just the kind of estimated times when you're going to be leaving the village. Definitely keep that in mind, but keeping the ear out, like I said, for any changes that might be made. There have been in 2018, when there was a torrential rain, they basically just waved everyone to the start. Unlikely that's going to happen again, unless we get a repeat of that weather. That was unprecedented. But just want to be aware of what's going on, so you're not surprised, or you're like, where'd everyone go? So just be aware, have an ear tuning in, and if you don't hear something, ask someone near you, hey, what was that one? If you think of something that might have applied to you. But this kind of your list. This is also available on the BAA website for the race, so you get it if you want to look at it again or print it out. You're going to do a screenshot right now, but just give you a sense of when you need to be kind of starting to focus in, and this is the time leading up to those exit village times that are listed. Next slide. So here's just kind of overview of the course. This is what you'll see, and you'll probably get a printout. I think it's in the magazine that you get when you pick up your bib and you pick up your shirt. Just kind of layout of the 7 communities that you go through on the way to Boston. It's a unique race in that you really get. It's just a cool race to experience. It's very little of the race is actually in the city of Boston. That's just this terminus. That's where you finish. But you kind of go through these different communities, and it's really, having grown up here, it's really an amazing experience. Everyone, I grew up thinking everyone knew how long a marathon was, and as sure most of you know, most people don't. And how often you've been asked, is that a 5K marathon? Everyone knows people running, both as to qualifiers or charity runners. They're out there supporting people for hours. It's really part of the culture here. It's something that I think that all people in the greater Boston area take a lot of pride in, is the marathon. And so, you can see that also with the bombing, that just the response to it was so, it's just so strong because of this is something that really anyone in growing up in the Boston area like sees as kind of like almost like a birthright to experience it. And it is, it's something that you'll see. If you get good weather for the fans, it may not be good weather for us, but you will have people out there in all weather cheering you on and urging you on, and it's just a great thing to experience. It's a lot of fun. Next slide. So this is kind of the course topography. Again, this is something you can find in either on the Boston website or in the material, Boston Marathon website, or the materials you get. You gotta get a look. See, I'm sure you probably have already seen it, but you can see a pretty steep downhill with a couple little ups along the way. The first 5 miles, 4.5, 5 miles of it, and then it's kind of rolling hills through it. I'll kind of break this down shortly. But you kind of get a sense of this. You're always going up or down. There's very little level. So in a good sense, if you prepare yourself for these things, you're recruiting your muscles differently throughout the race. And so with good preparation, you can really excel. But it takes that discipline in your training to really excel on race day for this course. It's a hard course, like I said, to get right. And often takes people multiple tries. I'm still waiting to get it right entirely. There've only been a handful of the ones I've run that I felt like good about, or how I did on race day. Even my fastest Boston was not my best effort on the race course. And so I think it's just a hard one to really feel like you nailed. If you do it on your first time, that's awesome. But it may be a tall order to fill. Next slide. So kind of this is a breakdown of the hills, the different kind of uphills throughout the course. You get a sense of where there are ups and downs throughout it. Again, like I said, there's kind of the terrain kind of undulates as you go through. So even when there aren't big ups or downs, you're rarely on a level. Just get a sense of the breakdown of it. Feel free to take a screenshot of this just if you want to kind of think about it. Again, I think that just the gist of this is that like you're always going to be dealing with slight ups or downs, and just to like think of that as a benefit to you in your body. If you train for that, you're going to be able to crush it. Next slide. So things to think about on race day and the start in particular. So narrow start. It's like they basically release corrals individually once once the race starts. And so you kind of, as you do in a lot of these bigger races, you kind of walk your way up to the start. You get the starting area, and then they send you starting line, and then they send you. It tends to be pretty congested. I think a lot of people are just like really energized there, and you have people zigging and zagging. So you're jostling a little bit. So be prepared for that. I usually like to find a lane. Typically, I've had luck on the outside a little bit to find a lane. Don't worry so much about running the tangents here because it's going to be really hard to. You're not dealing with like you will on like a Chicago or New York where you're making these tight corners. There's only a couple really tight corners in the whole race. For the most part, it's they're gentle curves. It's important once you're able to run the tangents, but if in the beginning you can't find a good line to run, don't stress about it then. Just like kind of you got to go with what you the situation you're dealing with. I like to find a lane that I can run for the first 4 or 5 miles, and then I become more concerned about like focusing on running the tangents, because it does make a difference on your finish time if you're really focused on trying to kind of maximize how you do on race day. You're gonna have people running you the whole way. It does spread out as the further along you get, and depending on when you start, of course, as well. Which is great. I kind of like that just because you feel like you're part of it. It always feels like a big event. So just be prepared for that. I know many of us are doing our training runs on our own. And if you've done a smaller race, there have been plenty of smaller races I've run where I'm not around people. You will always be around people during this race. Aid stations may be crowded. Don't get frustrated with that. I usually don't target the first person I see. I'll work my way down the line before I kind of zig over to get it. don't waste energy trying to go to the first one you see. If you're on the right side, it alternates kind of what comes first, but they're basically water stops every mile, starting at mile 2. They're on both sides of the road. They're staggered. So if it's not on your side, it will be. So don't like zig over to that because you're desperately seeking hydration. Hopefully you won't be, but if you need something, it'll be coming up shortly on your side. Just stay the course on that side and don't try and madly dash over to the other side. Don't waste energy trying to weave in and out of people, especially at the beginning. It's not worth it. You're going to spend more energy than any time you might conserve. So definitely, like I said, especially in the beginning, find your final lane. And then, when you're running the tangents, I think a lot of people don't look ahead. You just have to kind of keep a focus ahead. And, trying to run a clean line through the race will save you time. We've all finished races, and no one has ever finished a race where they're exactly 26.2 miles and change. You're always going to be like 2/10 to even up to 6/10 over, depending on how cleanly you've run the course. So when you can minimize those distances by just being engaged and focused on where you are and what's coming up and making sure you're running a clean line through the course, it's going to help you at the end as far as your finish time. Next slide. And I can't emphasize this enough, follow your plan. Like, don't try and improvise on the fly. Anything you're going to be dealing with on race morning is going to be something at the very least, you're going to know in the days leading up to it. If it's going to be a hot day, it's going to be rainy, but don't try and improvise on the fly. Don't try and test out a new pacing strategy during the race. Sounds like obvious things to do, but sometimes we get caught up in the moment and we kind of say, oh, this is going to be great. I feel great. And then you find out in mile 20, when you're climbing Heartbreak Hill, that you don't feel so great. So keep that in mind. You're going to have on the course, like I said, every mile starting at mile 2, they have Poland spring water and lemon lime Gatorade Endurance. If you haven't tried the Gatorade Endurance leading up to it, definitely try it before. It is not, as I mentioned, the type of Gatorade you get on, at the corner store. It has a higher, it has more electrolytes, higher sodium. It doesn't taste particularly good. I haven't had problems with it myself, but I could see sometimes with a higher salt content could maybe be uncomfortable for some people's stomachs. I think it's necessary and useful to be taking sports drink during the course. I know some people don't. I feel you need to replenish it. You're not going to generally get enough of that just from the gels or nutrition you might take along the course. I think it's important to get calories and get electrolytes in your hydration as well. To be honest, for myself, I don't generally have any water. I just take all sports drink personally. But if you do a mix or however you want to alternate, depending on where you are, just do what you've done in your training, and make sure you've tried, again, this product before. If you're going to use what they have in a course, you're not going to carry it with you. There are 3 Martin energy shot stations in mile 11.8 and on the Wellesley town line as you go from Framingham into Wellesley. Mile 17 in Newton as you approach the first real hill. The first hill of the Newton Hills is really the overpass over 128 or 95, as other people might know it as. But yeah, you can get some to take advantage of that if you train with it. I think that I like the Martin product. I've used it in training for years. I think it's a good product. And I think it does, as is advertised, it bypasses your gut, so it doesn't cause stomach distress, and it's more easily utilized in your intestines, just the way it's designed. So I find it a useful product, and certainly if you're going to use it on the course, to make sure you use it. If you haven't, also be aware that there's kind of 2 distinct types of it. There's the caffeinated and the uncaffeinated one. The uncaffeinated one is black. The caffeinated one is white. The Martin gels do have a higher caffeine content. Caffeinated ones have a higher caffeine content than other brands. And so, and I know one of our nutritionists has said that they feel like it's too much. So just be aware of that. If you haven't tried the caffeinated ones before, it is a higher level than you might be used to in other gels. So just keep that in mind. Again, I'll reiterate again and again, if you're going to use it on the course, make sure you use it in your training. Next slide. So follow your plan. However you're modulating your effort, heart rate, RPE, rate of perceived exertion, pace, or power, do it on race day. I'm a big fan of both heart rate and RPE for Boston, just because your pace and kind of and again, kind of with my own personal issues with at least the accuracy of power, and depending on that for racing, uh, like I think rate and RPE is a good metrics to use. I always tell people Boston is an effort course, and so your effort should be consistent, even though your splits may not be. But if your effort is consistent, you're running the course right. Again, these are at a couple pace calculators, like in the QT2 one, but then also ones that kind of adjust for. I think the Runners Connect one, I think, is one that adjusts for the kind of the course, and so the splits that it spits out are specific to different mile splits along the course, which are going to vary. Next slide. So again, pacing and race execution are of utmost importance in Boston. It's not a course like Chicago, which I love, that you can just lock and load and just go, not think. You have to think. Boston is a thinking man's course, and if you really are looking to excel on race day, you have to approach it that way. So you have to execute properly. You have to focus. You have to pace yourself properly and be comfortable with variation in pacing, because it's going to happen if you're doing it right. Boston's a course that just eats you up if you don't do it right. You're going to be hurting the last 4 miles if you haven't run to that point right. It's going to be uncomfortable for you. So focus on execution. Stick to your plan. You want to, as I said, an effort course, you're not going to run even splits, so they even try modulate effort by however you want to use it, by power or heart rate, to kind of estimate how you're doing. I always tell people, don't go chasing unicorns in this race of negative splits, because you're not going to run negative splits. If you're running negative splits in this race, you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. And this will be backed up, but we're going to have a slide that kind of go into data behind this, why I have that opinion. But just think about it this way. Are you really going to be running the Newton Hills faster than you were the first 6 miles of the course, first 5 miles of the course, when there's a net downhill? No, you're not. You're not. You're just not. So if you're trying to, when you get to the top of Heartbreak Hill, you're going to be toast. And then those last 4 miles are going to be harder than you want to experience. So focus on effort. Next slide. So just kind of ideas of how, like, kind of when you're dealing with elevation change, uphill or downhill, typically every percent gradient will slow you down by 12 to 15 seconds per mile. Like Heartbreak Hill, for all its kind of the mythology behind it, all everyone talks about, it's really only a 3.5% grade. It's really where it happens in the course and the length of it, which is not that long. It's like a half mile, but it's where it is in the course that it hits you. Because at that point in the course, you might be dealing with glycogen depletion if you haven't been fueling right or hydrating right. And so it's not so much the hills that are so scary, it's where they come in the combination of the hills and where they happen in the course. For every 10 feet of elevation change, it alters your time by 1.74 seconds, regardless of the horizontal distance covered during the race. So it's like, I think it's purely about, like, again, running the race by effort. Like, you want to take advantage of the downhills and run them honest, not overly so. Don't let your adrenaline get you carried away, but you want to make sure you're taking advantage of the downhills and that you're running the uphills with an honest effort, but not trying to maintain that same pace split that you were on a preceding downhill. You're just not going to be able to do it. And if you do it, you're just gonna tap yourself out prematurely. Next slide. So the average temperature of Boston in April is anywhere, it's typically is a high of 56, a low of 46. It can be prime running temperature. Usually, like, kind of the best weather for a marathoner typically is in the mid to low 40s. So sometimes you have that, but above that, a little bit above that, is also still can be good and good enough. So you can have that weather on average, but you also have years where it's, like I said, it can be in the 80s or 90s, and it's just brutal. And so you have to accept what you get on race day. Certainly as we get closer, as I mentioned before, we're all checking the weather. don't stress out about it. Control what you control. If you need to adjust pacing during the race, because if it's a hot day, you're not going to be able to do the same pacing strategy you would have done if it was the optimal temperature for a marathon. So keep that in mind and be ready to be flexible and remain calm when you might be dealing with some of these challenges that were unexpected leading up to race day. When you're dealing with above these ranges, like it's not optimal, but you can still do well. It just, you have to be more on about fueling and hydration to be able to do it. Hydration, obviously, when it gets hotter, and fueling when it gets lower, because your body is taking some body heat to maintain warmth. So just like things to think, a little bit things you have to tweak if things aren't optimal. For most non-elite marathon runners, arbitrary take 3.5 and 5 hours. Again, they generally perform best at temperature of 44 degrees. Next slide. So once the temperature rises above optimal range, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, the perceived effort rises and the pace slows for most runners. How that impacts you can vary depending on how fast you are, kind of how acclimated you might be based on where you're coming from. I remember hearing after someone coming from Texas that a particular hot marathon in 2017, they're like, "Oh, this wasn't so bad," and I'm like, "That's because you weren't training through a New England winter." So for women, actually tend to be optimal running performances when it tends to be a little bit cooler at the cooler end of the range, especially for faster female runners. However, interestingly enough, women are infected by rising temperatures less than men. Also, to keep in mind the impact of dew point on humidity and dew point. Dew point, I think, the most important thing to focus on, because what happens is when the air is saturated with water vapor, when your body is trying to cool itself off, that water collects on your skin, doesn't evaporate and cool yourself off, and it's kind of this vicious cycle. Your body gets locked in, continue to sweat more without really cooling yourself off, and that's where you get into the problem with hydration. Next slide. So to kind of tag what I was talking about running negative splits on this course. This kind of break, and you can see the orange line is the elites and kind of what percentage of overall pace they're running throughout the course, so their average pace throughout. And you see everyone goes up. The people who are like first time or first experience, or people who are not necessarily, running their best race that day, tend to have the most range and impacted most, as you see throughout the course. They will start out too fast and end up running too slow. Everyone is going up in pace as far as their splits are going to be increasing, even the elite athletes. So that's why I say it's not a course where you are going to typically, you're really going to, if you negative split, you're not running it right. No one negative splits Boston and has run a good race, in my opinion. So this is kind of borne out by the data. This data for this was taken from, I think it's like 16,000 runners over the course of a several year period. So I think it's backed up by the numbers as far as kind of how you should approach your pacing. You're basing on effort, not splits. Next slide. Actually, I apologize. A little bit more than I had remembered, but yes, a huge grouping. And again, it's borne out in the data as far as how you approach it. The average runner runs 8 to 9% faster, as kind of when we're looking at that chart, and finishes 10 to 12% slower, a variation over 20%, which is a huge amount. Even people running their best Boston or a good race, the kind of classified as peer runners, tend to fall within a range of 9% variation. So still, a significant variation, still running slower at the finish. Elite runners start out 3% faster and finish 3% slower. So there's relatively small variation, but still, again, everyone's running slower at the finish. If you're running faster at the finish than you were earlier, you weren't running the race right. You weren't pacing yourself properly early on in the race. That's all that means, in my opinion. Next slide. So kind of factors kind of impact you on race day. Course elevation, weather, not running the tangents, unexpected stops along the way. You have to factor if you're going to stop for water and you need to stop running, drinking it, that these are things going to impact your performance. Passing runners, when it comes to that, like you have to go, are you going out of your way to kind of run around someone? What I like to do, especially later on in the race, is kind of target someone, kind of catch up to them, and then recover, and kind of surge and recover throughout the end of the race. That allows me to kind of maintain a good overall speed towards the end of the race when I'm really mentally and physically tired. But like give me short-term goals to focus on, short-term achievable goals to focus on, and then allow myself to recover. And then before I kind of set the next, raise the bar a little bit more and try another surge. Keep these in mind as far as like when you're going around people, like it's over, like if you're in a group, like trying to get around the group, like how much energy you're utilizing to get out to kind of avoid people for the benefit of the time you're going to be getting from doing it. So these are kind of things you have to weigh along the course, as you make way along the course to make sure that you're running optimally. Next slide. So I always tell people in the beginning, take advantage of the speed there. If you find yourself running significantly, and I kind of classify this as more than 5% faster than your goal pace, then you slow down, then you're running too fast. If your heart rate is significantly elevated compared to how it's typically been a similar pace in your training, that could be just from adrenaline, that could be because of nerves, but you need to hold back a little bit. What you don't want to hold back is you don't want to be, people will always say, or I've heard people say that you want to run Boston with a focus, like you don't want to be running your race pace the first few miles. I 100% disagree with that. I think if you're not running your race pace or faster, you're leaving speed on the course. What you don't want to be doing is by using these kind of metrics that you're assessing yourself, whether it be power, whether it be heart rate, whether it be perceived exertion. Like if you're exceeding that, then yes, hold back. You're going too fast. If you're more than 5% faster than your goal pace, you're probably going too fast. Hold back. Don't let adrenaline kind of lure you into that. But you don't want to be going slower because you're leaving time on the course. The middle sections offer kind of rolling hills with slight inclines. So like if you practiced on rolling hills and your body, that kind of allows you're recruiting those muscles differently. And I think it benefits you having that terrain as opposed to a completely flat course. And kind of things to kind of look out for, both in a positive and negative way, is like, for instance, the scream tunnel as you approach Wellesley College. As you get around just past 12 miles, you'll start to hear them. Up to a quarter mile away, the women at Wellesley College who will line the course, screaming and shouting. It's like you get supercharged. It's awesome. You're going to want to high five people along the way as you do it. But one thing I've made a mistake of is like just all that adrenaline, that charge. Like I'm at my watch, I'm like 20, 25 seconds faster than I should be running. Just like make sure that you don't let that adrenaline kind of lure you into a faster pace than your body really can tolerate. There's a really fast downhill as you go through Wellesley Hills for like close to a mile. And again, it's like that is like kind of last, as your signal that the hills are coming up, or the noon hills are coming up. And then it gets tough. Starting at mile 15.5 to 16, when you get to the overpass, it's hard. And so expect it to be hard, maintain effort through the hills. Next slide. So the hills, like the way I approach the hills are in the way that if you look at them, they each kind of, it's like a step. So you kind of keep time, you kind of work that consistent effort through the hill. And then you give each, it kind of, you have a time to recover afterwards. Not that you're slowing down, but that you won't be working as, your body doesn't have to work as hard as it did to kind of work your way through the up of each hill. And so like it kind of gives you a chance to recover and then to run the next hill segment honestly. The first hill is the overpass. The second hill is steeper, lasts for about a quarter of a mile. Kind of lets you know this real. There's also kind of in the middle, like a saddle, a little flat / downhill part, and then you kind of work your way down the back half of the hill. The easiest hill, so to speak, is the hill right after you go past Newton City Hall, which would be on your right. That you have a hill relatively short, another level plateau, and then like once you get past the kind of Center Street, in Newton. That's kind of started the beginning of Heartbreak Hill. People always ask, am I there yet? I'm at Heartbreak Hill. Heartbreak Hill, it goes on for about a half mile, a plateau at the end, and then a really fast decline on the other side. It's not that these hills are super challenging. It's really where they occur in the race, and where most people, because they didn't prepare themselves properly for the race, or fueling, hydration, or training, that they're just at that point in the race they're really hurting. Next slide. So kind of this just to illustrate kind of the steps that you go. Like you have a little uphill section, and then like gentle level, slight downhill grade, downhill section after most of those hills, and you can see that the kind of the right hand side, that the top of Heartbreak Hill, as you really steep that decline over the next couple miles. That's the point where if you modulate your effort properly and you fuel and hydrate it properly leading up to that point, you can really crush the downhill the last way. It's a net downhill the last 4 miles, and you can run them really fast and hard if you put yourself in a position to do so. Many people, if not most people, do not, but you guys are going to be the exception. So if you do everything properly leading up to that point, you can run that back hill fast, the back 4 miles fast, that downhill section at the end, and it feels awesome. It's like that's the feeling you really want when you're really crushing downhill. You feel strong. You're kind of running, at a proper exertion level, and you're flying, and like that's where you want to have that feeling of like finishing Boston strong. And you can, if you get yourself to that position, you get to the top of Heartbreak Hill feeling good, you're ready to crush that downhill section coming up. Next slide. So just, be careful at the end. That last section of the wall is a net downhill. There is some rolling hills, so it can seem challenging. I think the most challenging part, the last 4 miles, there's an underpass. We go under Massachusetts Avenue. There's like that dip feels like you're climbing Everest as you go up the back end of that, and it's like it just feels cruel and unusual. But just power through that. Beyond that, that's really the only section that like I think is mentally hard, and it is just for a moment. The rest of it, you should be able to run fast if you put yourself in that situation. Then you get to the famed right on Hereford, left on Boylston. It's probably like 4/10 of a mile from when you make that turn from Hereford onto Boylston. So, and even that turn when you're on Hereford, it feels long. It's not that long. I mean, that whole section is like just over like half mile, maybe 6/10 of a mile. But it's like you see it stretching ahead before you. That's the time to push it. The people at that point are going to be 3 or 4 deep on both sides of you, people screaming. You're going to be energized to push hard through the finish. And, hopefully you'll have your friends and loved ones there to greet you at the finish. So it's get ready for that great photo moment as you cross the finish line. And really you realize the months, if not years of work leading up to that moment. Enjoy it. And it'll be everything you had hoped it would be and more. Next slide. So it's kind of what the finish looks like, and just kind of sense what to expect. You can see the crowds are stretch out, on both sides of the road. People standing many people deep to kind of cheer people on. It's awesome. Next slide, please. So race day mental fitness, focus on goals as a number one priority. The items you want to focus on items you have 100% control over. The attitude and fueling plan, focus on targets, however you're measuring it, pace, power, heart rate. Stick to that plan. Outcomes should be left to that final 10K, if at all. It's kind of outcomes like how you do should be based on how you can function that last 10K. If you put yourself in a position to do well by running the first 20 miles properly, you'll be able to execute that last 10K. No problem. It won't be easy, but you'll be ready to handle it. And be who you are. Like, be true to you, kind of how you're doing at that point, at any given point in the course. If you need to, if it's not your day, or if you're feeling just fantastic, like, those are the things where you want to be kind of true to how you're feeling. Don't like stick to a plan if it's not working out the way you want to. If your pacing plan was based on different weather, you have to be able to adapt to it. Next slide. So as far as spectators, people often ask about this. Remember to make a plan where you're meeting people. They do have like a family meetup area. It tends to be congested and crowded. So if you haven't packed a cell phone in your drop bag, or if you haven't carried it with you, just make sure you have something so everyone knows where you're supposed to meet up. It's alphabetical. It generally works pretty smoothly, but it can be kind of just congested depending on when you finish. They can track you on the BAA app. I believe it's every 5 miles you'll run over a timing mat, so you have pretty good estimates about both obviously what you covered, but also kind of based on your pacing where you are in the course in between those. And be patient. It can be a long time to kind of get through everything, to collect your medal, to get your Mylar blanket, to get your drop bag. Everyone's going through it. I think generally speaking, everyone's in a good mood at that point. But just be patient with both the other competitors, other runners, as well as the volunteers, because they're there they're spending their days to make your day that much better, that much easier. So definitely be appreciative of that and vocalize that appreciation as well. So just make sure that when you're done, just an ounce of patience will go a long way. Next slide. So as far as public transportation, especially with spectators, like the regular subway is almost immobile during the race. Like if you can't expect to hop on a T, like for instance at the Woodland stop in Newton, and be able to get to the finish in time, everyone has the same idea, and it's just super congested, runs pretty slow. There is a commuter rail that runs more efficiently. There's a commuter rail station probably about 3/4 of a mile from where you make the turn on a Commonwealth Ave to get into the city. There's also one in Wellesley that's right off the course. So if people are watching you there, if they time it right, make sure you check the train schedule so you can get to the finish line to meet you. Driving, you have to be very careful because of road closures. So make sure that your path to get there, you're on the right side of the road so you can extricate yourself. If you have family, they can extricate themselves, so they can meet you. One great way to get into the city is on Route 9. That's still flowing reasonably well during the race. So you can kind of work your way all the way to close to the finish area on Route 9 or on the Mass Pike. There will be closures off the Mass Pike. Like the Copley area is going to be closed, so they won't be able to get out right there. But you can usually get out somewhere in that proximity, park your car in a lot, and make your way to the finish in time. But just things you want to be aware of and want your supporters to be aware of, plan ahead for on race day as well. Next slide. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me at this email address. If you have any questions now, please feel free to ask. But I'm always happy. As you can tell, I love this race. I love talking about this race. I've spent a lot of my time running this race, thinking about this race. And so if there's something I didn't cover, something you didn't quite understand, feel free to hit me up. I'm happy to respond with any kind of support I can provide.
All right, Jon, thank you so much for providing all your insights. This video will be up on YouTube, and feel free, as Jon mentioned, to reach out to him here. You can also always post comments right into the YouTube video as well, and we will get back to you. Have a great evening, everyone.